Hi, unruly family. Asano is a normal young man. His life is turned upside down after discovering that his childhood friend is a spy along with her family, and he is subsequently forced to marry her in order to avoid being killed by her old brother. The story begins with the tragedy that befell Taiyou Asano, a high school student, who lost his entire family in a car crash. He was the only survivor, and as he sat at his family's funeral, he wondered how one realizes the true importance of something only after losing it. He looks at his childhood friend, Mutsumi Yozakura, crying, and questions himself. If he ever bonded with someone or something precious to him, wouldn't he just lose it? Suddenly, the image of Mutsumi dying scares him. She is the only real bond he has left, and he can't bear the thought of losing her. As he struggles to hold back tears, Mutsumi looks at him and realizes he's afraid. She holds his hand and assures him she isn't going anywhere. After the accident, Taiyou became distant from his classmates. He would often keep to himself, and their mere presence would startle him. Even when they tried to invite him to a soccer practice match, a study group, or karaoke after school, he would turn them down. Today is their 10th time trying to invite him to join them, and Taiyou has turned them down like a girl who is playing hard to get. His friends remind him that it has been over a month since they've ended up in the same class, but it is a shame they haven't hung out like old times. During this ordeal, one of the friends brings their attention to Taiyou, who has become a nervous wreck and is literally foaming at the mouth. He's seconds away from blacking out, which is an indication that his friends need to back off. They walk away, but still determined to get him to say yes. They decide to try again the next day. Taiyou feels bad for turning them down because he doesn't hate them or anything. In fact, he's happy they asked him, but he has his own reasons. Just then, Mutsumi arrives and asks if he rejected his friends again. Surprisingly, Taiyou can easily talk to her without having panic attacks. Since Taiyou is always working, he doesn't have the time to prepare food for himself. So Mutsumi often prepares his lunch and delivers it with a warning against him eating his veggies. She laments Taiyou's situation and his unwillingness to observe social etiquette like any average mom would. Taiyou is quick to remind her that she shouldn't be talking like that since she, too, rejected a boy. Despite him being smart, good-looking, and captain of the soccer team, Mutsumi is quick to brush it off and advises him that he needs to move on or his parents, watching from heaven, will be sad. She opens the lunch and tries to feed him an egg roll. But before Taiyou can eat it, their teacher, Harukawa, with his overzealous personality, snatches the bite and praises its taste. Almost experiencing a food gasp, Mutsumi looks annoyed and asks him why he's there when he was supposed to be on business for an overseas lecture. Harukawa smugly replies that he missed her food so much that he rescheduled and decided to come home early. Talk about overbearing. He doesn't stop there, praising Mutsumi's white hair streak and saying that he would want to rub his cheek against her. He only stops after Mutsumi threatens to report him for harassment. Even then, he looks smug and turns to Taiyou and asks him to see him in his office after school, which makes Taiyou nervous, but Mutsumi stays quiet. After school is over, Taiyou heads to the vice principal's office, where he has a very awkward tea party with Harukawa, who doesn't understand the concept of personal space. He further creates a questionable image of himself when he shows Taiyou his collection of secret shots of Mutsumi on his phone while he flaunts his favorite picture of Mutsumi. Taiyou can't help but think about what a pervert Harukawa is and how he should definitely report him. But Taiyou starts panicking when Harukawa starts showing him pictures of Mutsumi from when she was little. It takes a few seconds to get through Taiyou's thick head. How did the teacher come up with Mutsumi's childhood pictures? Harukawa declares that he has been protecting Mutsumi from all the undesirable men. He mentions the third-year kid who recently confessed to Mutsumi and how he graciously asked him to stay away from Mutsumi, and the kid agreed. And by graciously, he means covering the kid's eyes so he doesn't recognize his teacher and beating the crap out of him. Taiyou suddenly stiffens as he realizes what a dangerous man Harukawa is. As expected, Harukawa brings out his blade and points it at Taiyou. Just because he's envious of their friendship, Taiyou sweats profusely and realizes he can't move. He is scared that Mutsumi might be in danger until he hears Harukawa refer to her as his kid sister. But before his brotherly love turns creepy and dangerous for Taiyou, a silver-haired woman dressed as a doll suddenly appears at the window and rescues Taiyou using blinding lights. When Taiyou opens his eyes, he finds several faces staring at him. Mutsumi is the first to greet him, but when he realizes he doesn't recognize the faces or the place, he almost loses it. Pulling himself far away from them, he asks who they are. Mutsumi calmly explains that the people there are her siblings, The silver-haired woman who rescued Taiyou is Mutsumi's elder sister, Futaba. She introduces her elder brother Shinzu, who is tech-savvy, her elder sister Shon, a pro-gamer, Kengo, a very shy but super smart Nanao, and their guard dog Goliath, who honestly looks like a black cat. She reveals that they are a family of spies. Now that she has told him the secret about her family, which she had to hide for more than 10 years, she feels relieved. However, Taiyou turns jittery because of information overload, because what he thought was a family of greengrocers who dealt with eggplants and radishes actually dealt with guns and intel. Taiyou doesn't believe a word Mutsumi just said, and thinking it is a prank, he picks up one of Shinzo's guns and air fires it, only to scare himself even more as a freelancer spies. Their ratings are pretty good. Finally, they have their eldest brother, Kyouichirou, who turns out to be Hirakawa. He is basically a star among spies and plays an important role in boosting their popularity. He may be a pervert, but in terms of combat power and intelligence, he's the best spy in their family. Taiyou, however, is confused and questions why was he Kyouichirou's target. The family clarifies that they got a tip that Mutsumi's life was in danger. Someone was plotting to take her life. Futaba explains that during an incident years ago, Mutsumi suffered a near-fatal injury because of Kyouichirou. The white hair streak Mutsumi supports is a remnant of the stress from that accident. Ever since that day, Kyouichirou's guilt has made him obsessed with Mutsumi to an abnormal degree, which explains why he changed his name and took a job at her school to keep vigilance on her. But his obsession is such that he interferes with everything from her daily life to her personal decisions. A Mutsumi protecting monster who has been giving Taiyou a pass despite his hatred towards Taiyou. But now he has more than enough reason to eliminate Taiyou. After he receives the tip, Futaba apologizes to Taiyou about her idiot brother. Suddenly, the alarm starts blaring, indicating that Kyouichirou is home. The siblings assure Taiyou that he is safest with them and have set traps all the way from the entrance to the living room, where they've gathered. The siblings are prepared and are ready to give their moron of a brother a beatdown, even though they have only a 30% chance of succeeding, a 42% chance of one of them meeting 6 months of recovery, and a 25% chance of the house burning down. Seeing Taiyou hesitate, Futaba reveals that the only way he can survive is by marrying Mutsumi. According to the Peace in the Household Treaty, no family member is allowed to harm another family member. To marry, they will just have to exchange the family's cherry blossom ring, which every family member wears. The ring is double-banded, and the moment one gives the other half to their spouse, their marriage becomes official. This way, they can save Taiyou from Kyouichirou's wrath, and it might serve as an opportunity for Kyouichirou to get over his sister fetish. Taiyou struggles with a decision, so Mutsumi steps in and says she can't marry Taiyou because he has just lost his family and is still struggling to bring his life back on track. She feels that casually asking Taiyou to join their family will be cruel to him. Futaba apologizes for being insensitive, and they prepare to take care of the situation. When Kyouichirou casually complains about being left out, everybody gets on edge as no one senses his arrival. Futaba warns Kyouichirou to stay away from Taiyou, but Kyouichirou declares war and says he won't back off until Taiyou is proven innocent. Futaba has had enough, and she takes Kyouichirou by his tie and swings him like a lasso before smashing him on the couch. Nanao and Shinzo gang up on Kyouichirou, but Kyouichirou is just too powerful, and with a smile, he says he doesn't have time, so he'll play with them some other time. In no time, he wards off their attacks and asks them to hand over Taiyou, threatening to tear down the house using his razor-sharp thread-like weapon, the Steel Spider, while Kengo takes Taiyou and Mutsumi to safety. Futaba attacks Kyouichirou with her wind attack, but Kyouichirou has her tail in his Steel Spider before she realizes it. Next, Shinzu tries to stall Kyouichirou, using gaming attacks and flying orbs that start shooting at Kyouichirou. Meanwhile, Kengo and Mutsumi take Taiyou to a hidden chamber, and Kengo takes off his jacket before closing the door. Mutsumi smiles and assures him that she will not go anywhere. Kyouichirou soon arrives and sees right through Mutsumi's disguise, reminding her she still needs to work on her technique. Taiyou sees everything from his hidden chamber. Feeling helpless, Mutsumi tries to talk Kyouichirou into giving up his bloodthirst, to which Kyouichirou agrees and promises not to do anything to Taiyou. But in exchange, he wants Mutsumi to stay in the house to avoid attracting any more trouble. He also forbids her from using the internet, returning to school, seeing her friends, and engaging in romance. He wants to take all the fun out of her life and make her miserable in the name of protection. Kyouichirou walks closer to hug Mutsumi, and even as the blade she's holding pierces his flesh, he doesn't flinch. Mutsumi has no choice but to agree. And as soon as she does, Taiyou comes out of the chamber and demands that Kyouichirou let Mutsumi go, but Kyouichirou just ignores him. Taiyou understands Kyouichirou must also be afraid to lose the person he loves, but he is also aware that it shouldn't lead to the person he loves fearing him the most. so he offers Mutsumi to go ahead with the first plan Futaba gave them. He feels he can embrace it, as Mutsumi promised she wouldn't go anywhere, which gives him the confidence to trust again. Mutsumi agrees and detaches the upper band from her ring to throw it toward Taiyou. But before he can catch it, Kyouichirou uses his threads to prevent it from reaching Taiyou. But Taiyou breaks free from the steel threads and grabs the ring. Even though it cuts his hand in several places, because he realizes it is time for him to pay back his best friend, who has always protected a hopeless wreck like him. So from now on, he promises to protect Mutsumi as he wears the bloodied ring and calls Kyouichirou brother-in-law. Mutsumi runs to hug Taiyou, and the siblings arrive right on time to cheer their union. Futaba marks a dumbfounded Kyouichirou, because now it has come down to him to teach Taiyou what it means to protect Mutsumi. I appreciate you viewing my anime recap, Unruly Family. Please let me know what you think about Mission Yozakura Family by liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment.
Take you